What's up, gang? Carolina Jackpot checking in. It is Sunday morning, July the 23rd, 2017, and I'm going to roll right along with games number 7 and 8 for the South Carolina Gamecocks of the 2017 season. Feels pretty decent to get back to South Carolina. I was on vacation all week long, vacation in the Pennsylvania Poconos. The only bad thing about my vacation was we didn't fly, we drove. It took a day and a half to get there. Left Saturday afternoon last week about 2:30. Got in Virginia about 10 o'clock that night, way in northern Virginia, near the West Virginia border in Harrisonburg, home of James Madison University. And then it took us almost another day almost of traveling to get to Pennsylvania. Now, my thing is, I like to stop a lot. I stopped at, I'd say about every fourth exit or so. Grab a soda from Wawa or Sheetz or one of these convenience stores up there, just because I'm just mesmerized by retail for some reason, because that's my profession, that's my passion, and I like going into these places. If I was from Pennsylvania, I'd probably stop at every QT and Spinks that I saw on the interstate in South Carolina, because that's just my thing. But that slowed us down a little bit. I'd get a soda and scratch a few PA lottery tickets out of the machine. Had to make a video. You know, that's my forte. That's my major platform, is doing my scratch ticket videos. But I'm delving into the college football world a little bit here with some picks and predictions. Something that's also been a passion of mine. I've just never really voiced it in this particular manner. But it's good to be back home. It's hot here. It was hot up there. But the only difference I can say between South Carolina and Pennsylvania, as far as the heat, is the heat index up there gets high just like it does here, but the humidity is not as bad. Up there it feels hot and it feels dry. Here it feels hot and sticky, and there are bugs here. There are tons of them. There's bugs everywhere at nighttime. When you come home, you turn on your lights, there's moths all over the place. In Pennsylvania, you don't have that. I don't know why. The flies, the moths, the mosquitoes, you don't see all those things up there for whatever particular reason. Maybe it's because there's not, as many low-lying areas as there are in South Carolina for them to breed in and, kind of make their way your way. Pennsylvania is a large state. And where we were at in the Poconos is actually not that far from the beach, which is about an hour and a half this way, but you have to go to New Jersey. There's no beach in Pennsylvania. But it really quickly goes from beach to the kind of Midlands area like we have to the mountains. So it's a different place. It's beautiful up there. And I didn't know this, but it's often called the South of the North, because the people in Pennsylvania don't meet the stereotypes of most of the folks that you think of as being rude Yankees. They're rude, they run you off the road, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see that. I had one bad experience with customer service in Pennsylvania, and that was on a little tourist attraction, which, quite honestly, the people that were rude were doing their job by the book, but they didn't go above and beyond with the customer service, which is what really, kind of chapped my ass, for lack of better terms. But anyway, enough about that. We're going to get on into South Carolina's season games number 7 and 8. Game number 7 is on the road at Tennessee. Before I dive into that, let me backtrack. At this point in time in the season, the way my predictions go, I think we can be 5-1. We definitely have a shot at being 5-1. None of these things are guarantees. This is what I think will happen. We're going to be 5-1. We have a matchup with Kentucky, which I think we match up well with. I think we're going to take our revenge out on them and finally get a win over them after the first time in, since 2013. Seems kind of odd to have to say that, but it is true. That's how far off the map we've fallen the past few years. We've lost to Kentucky that many times in a row. Texas A&M, I think, is going to be the one that's a loss. I know people aren't touting a lot from Texas A&M this year, but that's a road game. It's a tough place for anybody to play. I think it's a little bit overrated, but it's still a tough place to play. Arkansas at home, I think, will be a win. Everybody's talking about Arkansas and their strong running game, this and that, but people forget, and they're not looking at what happened this spring. Their top running back is gone. He's done. He got injured in the spring game, and he's not going to play football again. I mean, I feel bad for that young man. The fact of the matter is, I don't know how well they're going to be able to adapt to the running back position. Their quarterback, Austin Allen, he's okay. You know, I don't think he's anything great. I think that'll be a win at home because it's in Willie B. Now, let me say this. They are tough. They're still tough along both lines. Arkansas, you know, the quarterback, you know, even though I said I'm not that impressed with him, still experienced, they could beat us. That could be a loss for us easily. Texas A&M could be a win because they've lost a lot. And their program seems to be on a downturn. They seem to be really up on the high point when Johnny Manziel was there, and they were, you know, the darlings of college football. I think in 2000, maybe 14 and 15, you know, they kind of bolted up way up into the top 10. In 2015, I think they were talked for playoff consideration the first week the polls came out, but they quickly fell apart. So that could be a win. We could flip-flop those two. The other ones, I'm not all that concerned about. Louisiana Tech should be a win. I already pointed that out. It's going to be a shootout, but it's going to be a win. Missouri has a really good offense. That's going to be a shootout for us also, but I think it'll be a win because their defense is not good. And NC State on the road in Charlotte, we're going to take care of business, contrary to what 70% of the people out there are saying. I don't really understand the love affair with NC State. Yes, they have a good defensive line. The fact of the matter is the competition levels they face is not all that. And yes, you can sit here and tell me they play Clemson and Florida State every year. How can you sit here and say that? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, you know, I can. And guess what? They also lose to those teams. NC State has not beaten Clemson. They have not beaten Florida State. They hadn't beaten Florida State since, hell, I don't know if they've beaten Florida State since they've been in the ACC. They may have back some in one of those waning Bobby Bowden years, like the 2007, 2008, when things were really going south, and you know, everybody knew that his days were numbered at FSU. They may have won against them. They hadn't beaten Clemson. They beat Clemson in 2011. They kind of shell shocked everybody. They jumped ahead of them like 30-3, and really just wore their ass out. But you know, and that was just an anomaly. I mean, that shouldn't have happened, but it did. Other than that, NC State can't do anything to impress me. They've won the games that they should win against cannon fodder competition, and then when they play the big boys, you know, they get decimated. Louisville absolutely took them out behind the woodshed last year. But enough about that. Let's get into these two games because I don't have a lot of time to talk about them. Tennessee is coming off a year where they really underachieved. Coach Butch Jones, in the minds of a lot of the Rocky Top Nation, is in the hot seat. He needs to win, and this year I don't know if it's his best chance to win, but I certainly think he can win. I think they're a dark horse contender for the SEC East Championship. They're not my pick to win it, but if you look at numbers and you look at what they've got returning, they're not in that bad a shape. Their offensive line that they return is probably one of the top 15 in the country. They got like one hole to fill on the offensive line that wasn't there last year, but the rest of them, very solid. Their tight end comes back. And I'll go on ahead and tell you, and so will anybody that's a real football fan that watches what's going on and watches how plays develop and just, you know, offensive line is where everything starts. Everything starts from the offensive line. If you have a good offensive line, you can mask a lot of problems that you may have on your offense in other spots. You get what I'm saying? Your offensive line does a good job. You know, he can open up some holes for a quarterback that's not that great. He can open up some holes for a tailback that's not that great. Offensive line, one of the key components to a good football team. Tennessee has that. They have that this year. They also return a decent special teams. Their punter is decent, very serviceable. The kicker they have, he's a senior this year, Aaron Medley. That's one of those people that seems like they've been around for 100 years. Last year against South Carolina, he lined up to try a 58-yard field goal to try to send that game into overtime. I didn't understand the reasoning behind that. I was at the game. The play was rushed. They rushed him out there. I barely, got the ball down to be able to snap it up. There was no way that kid was making that kick. Especially him, his range is not. I don't think he's ever hit one over 50 yards. And if you look at his numbers, they're not that great. He's missed, 8 to 10 field goals every year that he should have. His numbers over 40 are not good. But he's serviceable. He can hit your extra points for you. He can hit your chip shot and mid-range field goals. So, I'll take him over what we've got. We are basically in the blind on our field goal and punting situation at South Carolina. Elliott Fry was there for several years. Did a really good job for us. No one knew who he was. He kind of came out of nowhere. First game out, his jersey was too big. I think his name was halfway. There was somebody else's name washed off the back of it or something crazy, or either the C on Carolina was washed off. It's like a practice jersey or something. They put this kid in because he was so small. They couldn't find one to fit him. But he ended up doing a really good job for us. Tennessee on defense, look for that to be about as good as it was last year. They returned Jonathan Kongbo on the defensive line, defensive end. He was a highly touted player in junior college. Didn't get to play a lot last year because he was hurt. I think he only played in 2 games, but he did well in those 2 games. Look for him to be disruptive and do some things. Their tailback, John Kelly, is coming back. He's the returning leading rusher also. Did better last year than most of what they had. Alvin Kamara is gone. Jalen Turd is gone. The Turd flushed himself. That's the kid that quit, 2/3 of the way through the season. And what a douchebag that guy was. I don't really care what was going on with the program. You don't quit on your team. That's just crap. Especially with no longer than that left in the season. That just tells me that you're just a selfish jerk. So good luck to him wherever he goes. I think he's going to end up at Louisville, which is strange because they have a transfer. It's Shaq Wiggins, I think is his name, who's going to end up playing the defensive backfield for Tennessee. That's a transfer from Louisville. I don't look for us to win this game. Josh Dobbs is gone, and that's why everybody thinks Tennessee on paper is not going to be good. Let me tell y'all something. Josh Dobbs was not that great. He put up some good numbers. He looked really good at times. He also looked really bad at times. He threw a lot of interceptions. He made a lot of mistakes. And, you see where he got drafted. I'm still looking. He was not the greatest quarterback in Tennessee history by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, I don't think he makes it in the top 10. So his departure is not going to affect you guys that much one way or the other. Quentin Dormandy is one that's been there for a while, has been in the program. He can get some stuff done. And the newcomer, the Jarrett Guantanamaro, looks to be a heck of an athlete. Look for him to take over the starting role there and get the job done. I don't think we're going to win this game on the road. I think Tennessee is a little bit too much for us on the road. They possibly too talented, and I think we're going to drop to 5-2 on this one. Rocky Top takes it this time in Knoxville Neyland Stadium. Game number 7, let me get through this real quick here. After a bye week, we got Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt has a tough schedule this year. They open up on the road with Middle Tennessee State. Definitely not a sure win for them. Alabama, which they have at home, Kansas State, and Georgia. All 3 of those are going to be losses. They have Florida on the road and Mississippi State on the road. Who knows? They could come into Columbia as a 1-win team. And the fact of the matter is they're not a 1-win team. They're better than that. They returned 9 starters on offense. Their quarterback, Kyle Shermer, he has kind of solidified himself in that role after Mason was having trouble finding a real quarterback to replace Jordan Rodgers after he left and the James Franklin era finished up. But Ralph Webb also returning at running back. Seems like he's been there 100 years. Their offensive line is decent. The defense is salty as usual. They're missing Zach Cunningham. So I look for Vanderbilt to either equal or better last year's win total. I don't think they're going to win in Columbia. I think we're going to win that game by about 10 points. based on the fact that I think Vanderbilt's going to be pretty beat up when they come in there because they play some pretty stiff competition this year. Gotta go, guys. Carolina Jackpot. Stay tuned for the next one. Peace, and I'm